Good evening, y'all. Some of you know, some of you don't know. I've been studying a few books lately, and one of which has stood out far and above the others. There's something in it that just speaks to me about the plight that we face today and what faces our country moving forward. And to find this, I looked backward. And this is an autobiography about Booker T. Washington. It's called Up from Slavery. Now, a lot of people try to stay away from the topics that are in this book because so many hard feelings. However, this book shows you the drive, the ambition of one man to go past what everybody thought he could be and to drive forward into being something to be amazed that he could accomplish. He was a slave. His father, he never knew, but it's assumed that his father was a plantation owner. His mother was a slave. He was born before they were all released. He witnessed the Civil War. He was actually there when the Federalists came in and released the slaves from his plantation. One day, they all knew it was in the air. They knew what was happening. They called all the slaves, young and old, into the up to the big house, and they announced that they were all free. He was there for that. He received his freedom from that situation. And he rose from that to walking with presidents and senators and giving speeches all across this country. But if you would have asked anybody at that time, there was no education set up for them. There wasn't any infrastructure set up for them. But yet he had it in his heart that this is what he wanted to do. And he set out and he made it happen. Not only that, he helped countless others of his people reach that goal. To come from nothing, to build something, that in itself is honorable. And to do it so selflessly as he did it. It's just an awesome book. The things that he went through to achieve this education, the children nowadays, I dare say, would do that for anything. With our cell phones and with our fast food and with our public education system, our children, our peoples do not understand true work, true troubles. And there is an old saying that, hard times breed strong men, good times breed weak men, and it creates a vicious cycle. It's like you see a lot of rich people will talk about, I want to say, was it Warren Buffett? It don't matter. A lot of rich people will say, I'm not leaving my kids nothing because they don't know what to do with it. Well, that's their fault. I believe that you should leave your kids as much as you can. However, you must train those children to use what you leave them. You can't just assume that they'll learn on their own. There was one story, I forget, it might have been it was in one of the books that I've recently studied. The gentleman was extremely rich, but he wanted to leave his son his fortunes. But before he did that, he made his son go out and make his own fortune to prove that he could handle his father's. So he cut him off and he sent him away. And this child went out, made his fortune, and came back in 10 years and showed his father, this is what I can do. And his father left him everything. Now that is a good model. I'm not saying you should send your child out and cut him completely off, but we have to train them. We have to let them learn through trials and tribulations, just like Booker did. Booker was cold, hungry, broke, so much so that he slept under the boardwalk in one of the cities while he was trying to get enrolled in Hampton. Are we really that far removed from those trials and tribulations and struggles to try to achieve the things that we want? I mean, think about it, guys and gals. We're in these trucks. We deal with a lot of bad things some days, but in reality, this man had one pair of socks, and each day he would wash it and let it dry by the fire. How many pair of socks you got? How many pair of shoes do you have? Do you really have something to gripe about? Is there really a reason for you to quit a job every week and move on to a different one? Come on, people. We got to have a stronger backbone. We've got to put up a little bit of money. We have to save it. We have to invest it. We have to make it grow so that we can all become financially fit, financially free. We're all slaves to a degree in this world we live in today through debt, through the possessions that we own, through insurances, through taxes. We are in a system that holds us down. We all can work together, work harder, put up and educate our family and our friends and our whole entire country how to better manage their finances so that we all can achieve and feel a little more free. His story is a true American story. He studied hard, he worked hard to lift his family up, helping his brothers follow him in his education, helping others that he knew as he went back and taught some and sent them to Hampton as well. He was enlisted to build a school in Tuskegee. This school exists today. The Tuskegee University has 68 degree programs. He built something that lasted through time. He got this land for the school that was an old burnt plantation for $500, which was an enormous amount back then. But he managed to get the land. The main house had been burnt. There were some outhouses. They even used the hen house for some of the school. It's amazing the struggles that they went through just to receive an education. And now we make it so easy. You can get your education online. You don't even have to go to a school. But who's doing it? And while he was building this school, he understood that there was more than just the academics. He was bringing young men and women in, and he was teaching them trades. He was teaching them the vocations that they would use once they got their academics and moved out from the school. And when they went out to all the cities in the U.S., he would make them build the structures that they needed at the school. He would he would ask for volunteers to plant the crops at the school and to learn how to farm. And they would use the food and everything. They would sell it to the locals. They would eat it themselves. They also did brick. They had a brick burner there on the property where they made their own brick, and they would sell the brick to the communities. It was an awesome undertaking, in my opinion, the things that they did. The institution was strictly undenominational, yet fully Christian. And no student came in and did their studies without doing manual labor and learning trades. When I was listening to some of his speeches, he used words and phrases in just an awesome way in the way he spoke to people You know, I felt like a high school or a junior high child listening to a professor, and he was a professor, and you could tell he had that level of education. And it humbles you to listen to a gentleman, like I said, who was sleeping under a boardwalk, who was raised on dirt floors, who gave everything he had to raise his people and his family up. And we're sitting here and we gripe about an hour or two of detention, or, okay, this guy's going to make me go 15 miles on a route, or just little things that really, in the grand scheme, don't mean anything. Okay, the front row at the truck stops, I've got to go to the back row and walk all the way across the truck stop. That's nothing big. You know, the children, my child is for example, he would rather play games than do anything in this world. He loves to play games. And when you look back, a lot of the education that people were receiving was in manual labor, things that would actually help them through life. That's one problem they have with the school system now. They don't teach you money. They don't teach you finance. They hardly teach you how to balance a checkbook. We need to be teaching our children real things about their financial life. How do we expect to lift people up when we're not teaching them, and they're going out and they're buying things that's going to cost them double because of finance charges and not learning how to save their money or invest? You cannot learn to swim without getting into the water. That was one of the phrases I heard in the audiobook. And it makes a lot of sense. You see a lot of people that are studying about being owner-operators, but they never pull the trigger. They're never going to learn until you jump in the water and you try to swim. If he would have just said, oh, I'm a slave, I'm going to work on the plantation, for a few pennies here and there, how many people would have been way worse off? He worked hard all the time, and he accomplished so much. He jumped off the diving board into life, and he learned how to swim. And so many of us need to follow that today. I can't tell y'all everything in the book. I wouldn't want to. I would want you all to read it, to listen to it on audio. But I've listened to a few books on audio while I'm driving the truck. Trump's Art of the Deal, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and a few others. And this one, by far, I learned more from than any of the rest, short of the Bible. He had great points. He had great lessons. He was actually honored by Harvard. And that was one of the things that most surprised him in life, that Harvard University honored him. So if you get a chance, I recommend to anybody and everybody that you take a minute, buy the book, audio, or, flip the pages, and just try it. Booker T. Washington, Up from Slavery, autobiography. I believe you will enjoy it. So that being said, God bless, and I'll catch y'all on the next ride.